Hello, I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat, a show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. I'm a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist. I'm also the parent of a couple of ADHD kids, plus I managed to marry into a whole family of ADHDers. And so I've had both clinical experience. I'm in private practice. I have had both clinical experience with ADHD and personal experience with ADHD, which is real different, trust me. Okay, but today I want to talk. This is the third show in a series of three about surviving the holiday. And this is not the usual tips for taking care of your ADHD, or it's tips for taking care of yourselves. We tend to, a lot of times, focus on anything but the parents of an ADHD child. So this is for you, and we're going to talk about a bunch of things. But first thing we're going to talk about is you have to do self-care. You have to take care of your physical organism. You take care of your body. Okay, because you're going to have a lot of temptations and a lot of distractions uh, in the holiday season. Okay. First thing is the eating part. And you're going to have a tendency to sugar yourself out. There are all these little sneaky snacks, fudge, and those little cookies that have got the Hershey's Kiss in the middle, and a lot of other sweets that you don't normally get. This is the only time of the year I get pecan pie. So that makes me happy. And then the problem is sugar gives you a jolt. Okay, you take a lot of sugar on board, your blood glucose goes sky high, shoom, and then your insulin producing pancreas goes nuts and starts, oh man, our blood sugar is way too high, and it secretes a bunch of insulin, so then your blood sugar goes down, and you can go through that whole cycle in, well, it's well less than 40 minutes, sometimes as quickly as 20 minutes. So you're going from feeling draggy, no, to feeling too jazzed and you're uncomfortable there, and then feeling so you've lost the sugar again. It's gone away. Your blood sugar is probably lower than it was before. So none of those things are good for you. None of those things are very comfortable, and none of those things help you adapt and adjust. So you've got to watch that. I mean, I'm not saying don't eat that. Lord, I've got the biggest sweet tooth in the country, and I have to control myself. Oh, just one more piece of fudge won't hurt, will it? But it does, and it screws you up. The other thing you've got to watch out for in this time of year is that sleep. Sleep becomes a secondary thing, something we don't think about very much, something we don't do, something we don't just kind of, I'll get enough. I can survive on 4 hours of sleep. No, you can't. Okay. People who say that are fooling themselves. It takes 7 or 8 hours for everybody. Anybody there anybody in the world, I mean, has got to get about 7 or 8 hours. And the older you are, the more sleep you need. So make sure you do that. And then we've got a thing that happens in the holiday season, particularly, is there's more alcohol around. There's eggnog and all kinds of fancy drinks with lots of booze and some liqueurs and maybe some whipped cream, or I mean, there are a bunch of temptations there, and you've got to recognize that alcohol is not a performance enhancer. It has the effect of reducing your inhibitions, which in the holiday season, when you get a lot of family around, it may not be a good idea to reduce your inhibitions. You may want to keep your defenses a little bit higher. I know, what is it? You choose your friends. your relatives are just given to you, and there'll be some that you'll just love, and there'll be some that you can't hardly stand, but you have to, 'cause, uh, it's either your family or your wife's, so or your spouse's. Okay, so you've gotta watch that. You've gotta actually get to the point. Okay, alcohol, I mean, the medical recommendations are no more than 2 drinks a day for a male and 1 drink a day for a woman. If you're getting into the 3, 4, 5 thing, you're gonna be in trouble. You're gonna operate at a less efficient level, and you're likely gonna make some screw ups. So watch the alcohol. And then the other thing you need to do for yourself, for your body, is get some exercise, some kind of exercise. It doesn't matter what it is. You don't have to have a suit, like the bicycle riders that seem to they look like they're getting ready to run a marathon bicycle race, and they're just going around the block a few times. So you don't need that. I mean, then probably the easiest thing to do is uh, walking. And, I mean, walking's great. You don't need any special exercise. Most of us know how to do it. Some don't try to do very much, but I mean, and you don't need hours and hours. A half hour a day is plenty. Just, a couple of walks around the block. You can think great thoughts and all that stuff while you're doing it, and you kind of double up your mental relaxation with your physical relaxation. See, alcohol is a great sort of leveler. If you're feeling kind of down and maybe a little depressed, a little gloomy, or you walk, it increases your mood. And you, or if you're on the other direction where you're kind of agitated and anxious and that sort of stuff, it helps calm you down. So, it jacks you up. If you've got low energy and depression, it calms you down. If you've got the anxiety, tension kinds of issues. So it's a great mood regulator. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the way you think and plan for the holidays. Uh, First thing you got to do is you've got to set some limits, some reasonable limits as to how much you're going to take on and how you're going to do it and all that sort of thing. The best way to make sure that you're setting limits is that if you've got a pretty good plan. Okay, now I don't mean a detailed checklist like we used to use in the Air Force, but I just enough of a plan that you get things done in a smooth, kind of orderly way. And there are going to be all kinds of people that'll sell you all kinds of planners and journals and that sort of stuff. Uh, I find that I find most journals and most time planning tools are just too darn complicated, and they're sort of a pain in the butt to actually try to work with. It's so detailed, and what am I going to do the next half hour kind of things? And I don't work that way very well. Uh, I don't have ADHD. I'm just impatient, is what I usually say. So anyway, but having a kind of a general plan so things get done in order they need to get done, that's what you're looking for. You're not going to be perfect at it, but having some kind of a plan, some kind of a, know what I've got to do today kind of thing, will kind of help you get uh, through the holidays and get most of the stuff done, and be generally satisfied with the process. The other thing you need to do is set some limits, some boundaries, okay? There are some things that you just don't let people talk you into or intrude on. One of the things is who does what, you know? Uh, my wife is a great cook. My kids are all great cooks. I'm a pretty good cook, but, if they wanna do the beef Wellington, hey, go for it. But don't let people intrude on you. This is not the time for your best buddy to drop his kid off so you take care of him for 2 or 3 days. No, that's not. reasonable. You'll bonk, you'll screw up somehow. So set some limits and just, be calm about it. But, you know, you've got only so much energy and so much time. Excuse me. So you've got to figure out ways to make that limited energy and limited time take you through the whole holiday period. And the other thing is you have to accept that it's not going to be perfect. Okay. People are going to make messes. They're going to tip over the dip all over the rug. They're going to crack your favorite glass or coffee mug or whatever. Stuff is just going to happen. You're just going to have to make sure that you can tolerate that. I mean, people make mistakes. It's part of being a human. We all do it. Um, and the last thing I think about, and probably one of the most important thing, especially if you're one of those long-suffering people who think you have to do it all. You have to do every bit of your holiday routine. It's up to you. You bake all the cookies, you bake all the pies, you uh, do the roast or whatever you're having. You do everything. And actually, my wife was used to be like that, and she wouldn't delegate for anything, even though, like I said before, I'm a pretty good cook and my kids are all good cooks. Uh, she wanted to do it all herself, and she used to have what we called an attack of the bustle, which is a British expression. I mean, you're going 90 miles an hour, and probably you're not getting much of anything completely done. You're just sort of getting a little piece of it, and then you see something else that you got to go to, and then something else, and uh, pretty soon you've got 12 half-done projects that you probably won't get around to finishing up. But delegating is important, and like my wife, she's a cancer survivor, uh, 20, 21 years now. Thank you very much. And she was in the middle of chemotherapy when Christmas came some years ago, and she just couldn't do it. So she had to let my kids do most of the cooking, and they did a bang up job. They did a beef Wellington and a bouche de Noël, and she just kind of sat there and I hope rested. But anyway, and that kind of freed her up, and then she was okay to delegate again. But if you delegate to somebody, you got to let them do it their way, and that sometimes is the hardest part. You want, oh no, I do this first, and then I do that. You can't do that. You've got to just you delegate it. That means you're not in charge of it. They've got to get it done. Live with it, and it'll save you a whole bunch. It really does. And then the next thing we need to talk about is emotions. Okay, to some people's surprise, the holidays are one of the tougher times of year for people emotionally. The anxiety rate goes up, the depression rate goes up, the alcoholism rate goes up, the family discord, the marital discord, all those things go up. Well, why would that be? This is supposed to be a celebration. Well, the problem is this is the time of year where we contemplate, where we think about things, where we are doing family traditions that started when we were kids, and we've kind of kept them all through our lives. So when we're doing that, it also is a reminder of the people who are no longer with us. Our parents, if you're my age, certainly. Uh, you have to understand that you're going to see, oh, that used to be mom's favorite, whatever, and then you start thinking about your mother and how much you loved her and all the nice things she did for you and all that sort of thing. And then your moods kind of go, oh, you get a little melancholy. And that's okay. I mean, it's um, a a natural part of life, and everybody dies, and everybody who's left behind misses them periodically. Uh, we don't have any young relatives who've died, but we have, both sets of parents. My parents and my wife's parents are deceased, and you think about that every once in a while, uh, and that gets you a little melancholy. As I said, you get a little moody. Okay, you start thinking about other losses that you've had. And can be as silly as your favorite car that somebody slammed into and uh, destroyed, or it can be um, well, many losses. The job you didn't get that you really wanted, the trip you wanted to take and never got around to it. Uh, the times you've screwed up, and for some people, there are big time things they've screwed up, and you start thinking about that. You think of your failures, your uh, the times when life didn't work out so well for you, and then you get a little moody, you get a little irritated or irritated. Everybody's got a favorite bad emotion. I don't know if I've talked about that much, but does people given the same stimulus, some people will be angry, some people will be scared, some people will be depressed, some people will take some kind of physical action that's maybe not appropriate. It's just it's one of those things that we learned, like for men my age, anger is an appropriate emotion. Being anxious and tearful is not an acceptable emotion. Uh, so a lot of times you'll have guys, getting at each other, and they're not really that angry. That's the one that's acceptable for them to relieve a little pressure. So, irritated by stress also. Sometimes stress irritates the heck out of us. And sometimes things don't go perfectly, as I was mentioning. So, people are more emotional, and you're also there are some people who are just irritating, and sometimes they're relatives. And there are also some people who have beliefs, and especially nowadays, political beliefs. You don't want to go there. You want to stay away from as much as you can about the political situation right now. I mean, we will. No group of people is, that 100% pure one way or the other. So it's going to be an issue, and it will be a problem. And it's one of those things that in any given group of people, there will be some people that are just wonderfully pleasant and you'll get along well with them, and there'll be one or two people you just rather not be around them. But they're relatives, and some of them are relatives anyway. And so you've got to do something about that. Okay, now um, some of the things you can really do. These are I'm a psychologist. With a background in behavioral medicine and a background in neuropsychology. One of the things you need to do, if it's your home, set up a quiet place, some place where you can just go and get away from everybody for a little bit, for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, where you just kind of let go and don't have to worry about a thing. If you're at somebody else's house, if you've traveled to be, well, it used to be we'd go to my wife's parents a lot, and I, I loved my in-laws. They were great folks, very accepting of almost any kind of behavior, and but there was a certain energy level that was difficult after a while, and I would have to go find a place. And fortunately, upstairs, there was a big open hallway and a little love seat, I guess they call them, the two-seater sofa kind of thing. And I just go up there and just kind of not do anything, just breathe and just kind of let my body relax a little bit. It's pretty intense, you know? So wherever you are, there is some place you can go that will be a place for you to de-stress, if you will. Some other things, okay, your mind controls your emotions, believe it or not, okay? Uh, the way you think about things determines the emotional response you're gonna have, okay? It's not like it's magic, or it's not like it's because of your parents, it's because of the way you think about all these things. So, and we're all overtrained in being critical. I mean, that's what we grew up with. That's how our parents worked. That's how our teachers worked. That's how our coaches worked. Uh, and that's how we learned to work. We learned to be critical. We learned to, oh, why the heck did I do that? You know, that sort of thing. But spot an error in a heartbeat. And in prehistoric times, that was a valuable ability to see what's wrong. Oh, there's something that's not quite right. I bet there's a big old tiger in there. Or, oh, this is the same. This was the place where Og, got sick and almost died from drinking the water. So we won't drink the water. Like, okay, I mean, those are exaggerated things, but we use the same intensity as life or death situations for little things like, oh crap, I forgot to mail that letter. That's not necessary. Okay, then you need to calm yourself down because you're going to get a heart attack that way. Um, anyway, so you've got the job of training yourself to see the positives and actually learn to react to the positive parts of any complicated social situation. One of the best ways, and believe it or not, this works, is a couple of times a day, usually first thing in the morning, first last thing before you go to bed. Just actually have a pad, a journal, whatever you write on, and write down 4 or 5 things that happened or that are going to happen or that you're grateful for. Okay, I'm grateful that that I had the best sandwich I've ever tasted. I think it was a big club sandwich that I got. And what I'm saying is that it doesn't have to be uh, award-winning kinds of activities. It's not when you perform delicate brain surgery and it works out kind of stuff. It's little things. Oh man, that new toothpaste is really great. I love it. That kind of thing. And just get in the habit of starting to write it down, and you'll find that it kind of carries over, between those times when uh, you were actually writing it down, you start kind of noticing the more positive things going on in your life, which is generally helpful for most of us. It makes us much more pleasant to be around. The other thing you should do, and this is I happened on this a long time ago before a whole bunch of research proved that it was actually effective. When I got out of college, I was married and I was in the Air Force, and I was not real happy with what I was doing and all that sort of thing. And so I found out that every time I started really, getting bummed out or whatever, start writing down. I use an old steno book. I've got a whole collection of them, mostly from the times when life was going to crap, and But it was a way to kind of get through it, and then I found out that it was actually kind of helpful if you just did it all the time. Uh, you learn a lot about yourself. For some reason, what you write down is different from what goes on in here. It's a whole different thing, and it's way more for some reason when by the time the thought gets from your brain to your pen, it changes a little bit. You get a little perspective on it. And say, well, that's silly. That's not what I really think. So journaling daily, and then, it doesn't have to be hours and hours, 10, 15 minutes, uh, whatever, is plenty of time. And it's real important. I mean, these two or three things, I haven't gotten the third one yet, but those are real important. And it's real important for more than just surviving the holidays. It's also important for just uh, getting better control of your life so you can be a little more intentional, actually plan to do the things you dream about doing. Okay, the next thing is I never know what to call this because I've been doing it for 40 some odd years, but we used to call it no, we used to call it relaxation training because back in the 1980s and 90s, meditation, people got facial tics if you use the word meditation. Now it seems like it's quite trendy, but basically every culture has had some method of getting perspective, calming down, uh, thinking, praying even. It's not they're not all the same techniques, so there are a bunch of different ways you can help yourself. But the idea is, I guess we'll call it meditation for now, because that seems to be the word people use. And there are a lot of different ways of meditating, and you have to find the one that works for you. uh, Typically, ADHDers, you tell them, oh, you need to meditate. And they go, oh, I can't do that. I can't just sit there and not think about anything. It just doesn't work for me. Well, that's only one way of meditating. There's meditation on the move. But I think a lot of the older psychiatrists and stuff back in Vienna and so on were famous for their evening walks where they walked around and thought great thoughts and talked with usually a partner. The same thing works for you and me. You can walk meditatively. You can run meditatively. It's just you don't have to not think. Matter of fact, there's no way to not think. You're going to think. You're going to have, oh, hey, I hadn't thought about that. But the deal is, you don't get up and run over to write down because you just remembered that you need to buy bread tomorrow. No. Just think it through. Oh, okay, I got to remember to do that. Okay. And now we'll just, there's an interesting thought. I mean, you can just self-observe, and that will help. Um, you know, I did a lot of stress management clinics and that sort of stuff. And one of the things I found, especially when I was dealing with, well, I used to do fighter pilots, and I used to do uh, firemen and police, uh, first responder types. Everybody who's an adrenaline junkie and got to get there. And what I would always do is a thing called progressive muscle relaxation, which is focused on muscle tension. Basically, you go squeeze, 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 tighter, 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 tighter. Now let go. And by the time you've gone through 17 or 18 different muscle groups, uh, everybody's mellow, and nobody's had to concentrate or do anything weird like trying not to think or any of that stuff. So I we don't. That's was my 100% guaranteed to work kind of method. It's becomes somewhat tedious if you do it every day, and there are some ways of simplifying that. I might get to those in another session, but right now, just know, and a lot of ADHDers are very visual, so you can paint a picture with them with your words. Pretend you're walking on the beach, and the sand is warm under your feet, and you can feel the heat of the sun on your shoulders and on the top of your head, and you can hear the sound of the waves coming into the shore. And off in the distance, you can hear a seagull calling. And way out, it's there, you can hardly hear it, but there's a boat motor going, and you hear some people talking uh, off to your right side, and some kids splashing in the water on your left side. You like that. Anyway, so that helps you get a um, perspective uh, on how to do a visualization, and that's very effective, especially for people who are highly visual. Um, and this whole just focus on your breathing and say Yahtzee every time you every time you exhale. That works. It will work, but people think there's some magic in the word, and it's not any word, any particular word. You can exhale and say blue every time, blue, and then you know think about the sky, think about blowing up a balloon, whatever, whatever you want. But and you can do it with a single word, but there's no magic in the particular word. It's the repetition and the focus on your breathing that helps you. So anyway, learn how to do that, and you'll find after you it's a skill. Now that's the thing you got to remember. It's a skill. You don't just wait until you need it before you start to do it. You've got to develop the skill, and you'll find that after you develop the skill, you can do you can control your around tension level in a couple of minutes. And it's not even a big deal. You just and you can just feel the tension go away. Uh, but you have to practice. There's not going to be a magic pill. I mean, it's not a pill, so you have to practice. Yeah, you don't need a lot of medication in your life, but you do need to put some work into developing the skills that you need. And meditation or relaxation and controlling that is really important. And you will find that you life is a lot better when you can keep yourself under control. Okay, one of the last couple of things is the social uh, aspect. Like I said, you're going to have you're going to be around groups of people. Maybe you don't have many groups that you're around. Maybe you work from home and you hardly ever see anybody. And now all of a sudden, all the neighbors are having things, and you're going to these. Just relax, enjoy it. Find one or two people that you like talking to. Don't pay attention to the real loud guy who's laughing like he's in a saloon after in a happy hour. Just let it go. Don't talk politics. Don't talk politics. Just stay cool and composed. And also, this is supposed to be a spiritual time of year. It's sort of funny that we take a pagan festival and we use it to celebrate a Christian event kind of thing. And that can be a great way for a lot of people to also be more relaxed and more calm if they're focusing on the religious aspects of this holiday season. I'm not going to say a whole bunch about that. That's not my area of expertise, except my personal stuff. So you your religion is nobody's business but yours. I don't like this whole everybody's got to believe what I believe kind of thing. I don't think that's necessary, productive, or anything else positive. I think you believe what you believe, great, go for it, but don't try to force it on everybody that's condescending and also will lose you a lot of friends. Okay, so your spiritual beliefs, your spiritual practice, or your religious practices uh, can be a source of great comfort. Uh, and fine, go for it. Do do the things you need to do to use that to help you. Um, that's not my department of expertise, but uh, I've seen lots of good things happen because of it. I've also, and especially recently, started to see a lot of not so good things coming out of that. But anyway, okay, this has gone on a bit longer than I usually go. Just this is my area. This is what I really do. I've spent more years uh, doing either the neuropsychology or the what we used to call behavioral medicine back in the day, um, which is basically the stress management kind of thing. And that's one of the things that people have a lot of trouble with and just don't seem to know a lot about how to handle it. Okay, I am Terry James Gingras. I am a clinical psychologist. My website is terrygingrasphd.com. You go there and you can sign up for my newsletter. My newsletter, except during the holidays, is usually the content is different. Um, they're not like I just do the transcript of this and publish it as a newsletter. I do different things for the newsletter, and uh, you can also sign up for a freebie uh, 20 to 30-minute kind of discussion thing where we talk about coaching and what I can do for you and what you might need and see if we can work together. Uh, and you can set that up on Calendly. And in the meantime, take advantage of some of the things we've been talking about and have a great holiday season. And we'll come out next year all fired up and ready to go. Okay, we will catch you next time. And remember, we're trying to make the world safe for ADHDers.